I was under my parents' kitchen sink, fixing the same damn leak for the third time that year, when my mom told me, casually, like she was offering tea, that I needed to give up my room for my younger brother, the golden boy. Oh, and keep paying rent, of course. That was the moment something broke in me, and not the pipe. The faucet had that same old leak again. You know the kind. Tiny, consistent, infuriating. I crouched under the sink in my parents' kitchen, trying not to bang my head on the cabinet edge. New washer, new wrench, same drip. I'd replaced this thing twice already. Probably needed a whole new unit, but they wouldn't want that. Too expensive, Mom would say, even though it had come out of my pocket anyway. I glanced over at the fridge while tightening the bolt. There was that photo again, the family trip to Myrtle Beach. I was maybe 15. Mom, Dad, my little brother Sean, all beaming. I wasn't in the picture. I'd been the one taking it. Funny how that turned out to be a metaphor for everything. The bolt finally clicked into place. I stood up, wiped my hands, and took a breath. The house was warm, like it always was, the kind of lived-in heat that blankets you in stale memories. That old floral couch in the living room, my bed since I was 17, sank under the weight of age and obligation. Every spring poked like a reminder. This is where you belong, but not really. Sean's voice broke the hum of the air conditioner. Hey man, Mom and Dad want to talk to you. I turned, and there they were, standing by the hallway like a jury ready to read the verdict. Dad cleared his throat. Your brother needs a place to stay. He just got back from school, you know that. We think it'd be best if he moved into the room. My room. The one I'd been sleeping in before Sean even hit puberty. Mom chimed in quickly, like she was smoothing it over. Just temporarily, of course. You could use the couch again for a while, and it wouldn't change anything. You'll still help with the rent, obviously. You're so good at that. It was like the words hit a delay in my brain. I just stared at them, nodding like some background character who hadn't been handed a script. Still pay the rent, still fix the pipes, but give up the one corner of this house I could close a door to. I nodded once, slow. My mouth was dry. Okay, but I didn't sit back down. I looked around the room, at the couch with the indents of my shoulders, at the crooked photo frame with Sean front and center at his high school graduation, at the certificate I'd earned from my trade school that had somehow never made it to a frame. The memories came in flashes. All the times I'd said no to new shoes so Mom could get her medicine. The months I worked double shifts to cover the roof repairs. The Christmas I spent alone because Sean wanted a family trip to Aspen, the way they always called him our little genius, while I was the one paying for the light bill. And now they wanted my bed. I walked past them slowly, grabbed my jacket from the hook by the door. Where are you going? Mom asked. I've got something I need to do, I said. Dinner'll be ready in an hour, she said, as if that meant anything anymore. I didn't answer. I opened the door. The evening air hit me like a wave of clarity. I stepped out, closed the door behind me. This time I didn't plan on coming back. I didn't go far, just down the block to that old bench by the bus stop, the same one I used to wait at when I was 18 and pulling pre-dawn shifts at the warehouse to pay off Dad's credit card debt. Back then I told myself I was doing it for the family, for stability, for love. I sat on that bench now, older, heavier, not in pounds but in years of swallowed pride. The air was still, too still, that sticky suburban silence that only breaks for lawnmowers and regrets. I stared at my hands, calloused and dry from years of fixing everything but what really needed fixing. My phone buzzed once, junk mail. No one wondering where I'd gone, no one asking if I was okay, and that silence? It didn't hurt the way I thought it would. It just confirmed what I already knew. I was invisible unless I was useful. I booked a motel room with cash, half out of instinct, half out of shame. Not that I'd done anything wrong, but when you grow up in a house where worth is measured by sacrifice, it's hard not to feel guilty when you finally stop bleeding for people who never even say thank you. The room was beige and smelled faintly of old cigarettes, but it was mine for the night. No one asked me to fix anything. No one told me I owed them for existing. I slept like the dead. In the morning, I drove back, not to move in, just to collect what was mine. Though the longer I stood in that driveway, the more I realized how little I actually owned. Most of my life had been spent building comforts for others. The front door was unlocked. Sean was on the couch, my couch, barefoot, scrolling through his phone like he owned the place. His shoes were kicked off, chips on the table, remote in hand. He barely looked up. Hey, he mumbled. Mom said you were cool with it. I said nothing. My silence wasn't passive. It was the kind that had edges. My room, well, not mine anymore, was already claimed. Sheets folded on the floor. His backpack tossed lazily by the wall. My pillow was gone. Closet emptied except for the top shelf, where I found an old shoebox I hadn't opened in years. Inside, rent receipts, grocery store dockets, water heater replacement invoice, all in my name. And beneath those, photos from birthdays I spent behind the camera, proof I'd been there, proof no one remembered. At the very bottom, I found a birthday card I gave Dad when I turned 23. I'd slipped in $100 that year. The envelope was still sealed, unread. I packed up my laptop, a few clothes, my toolbox. That was it. The rest didn't matter. As I passed through the hallway, Mom emerged from the kitchen. She looked at the bag over my shoulder, the keys in my hand. You're really doing this? She asked, like I was the one abandoning them. I stopped by the door, looked her straight in the eyes. My voice didn't shake. Yeah, I am. Her mouth opened, searching for words that might have mattered 10 years ago. But I was already stepping out, letting the screen door slam behind me. Outside, the air smelled like rain, but I didn't care. For the first time in my life, I was walking away from a house I had built with my bare hands and choosing not to fix it anymore. I stayed in that motel for 3 days. Just me, the peeling wallpaper, and a silence I hadn't known in years. Not the awkward, heavy kind you get in a family dinner when someone says too much. This was clean silence. Pure. No expectations. No background guilt humming like an old fridge. No one asking where the pliers were. Just stillness. Every morning I'd wake up thinking they're going to call today. Not because they missed me, but because something broke. Because the oven wouldn't light. Because the car wouldn't start. Because Sean accidentally unplugged the router again. I waited. Nothing. Not even a message. Not. It was like I'd been deleted from the group chat, which honestly I probably had. The scary part? It didn't hurt the way I thought it would. I wasn't angry. I wasn't heartbroken. I was numb, but not in a bad way. Like my system was recalibrating. For the first time in my adult life, I had no responsibilities beyond my own breath. On the 4th morning, I drove to a nearby diner. Sat at the counter with black coffee and scrambled eggs, watching 2 teenagers argue over a playlist on a phone. I realized no one here knew me. No one expected anything from me. It felt alien and beautiful. After breakfast, I pulled up apartment listings on my phone. Found a 1-bedroom on the 2nd floor of a faded red brick building on the edge of town. It had water stains on the ceiling and a fridge that growled when it kicked in, but it was available. And cheap. I signed the lease that afternoon, paid the deposit in full, didn't tell a soul. That night, I sat on the hardwood floor of my new place, eating rotisserie chicken straight from the plastic container. No table, no chairs, just a backpack, a toolkit, and my laptop. I brought the hoodie I used to wear in trade school, threw it on and felt for a second like a version of myself I hadn't seen in years. There was nothing on the walls, no framed photos, no passive-aggressive sticky notes, no calendar with Sean's important dates circled in red, just quiet, unclaimed space. It felt wrong at first, like I'd broken some sacred contract. A part of me kept waiting for a call from Mom, her voice tight with disappointment, asking how I could just walk away. But the phone stayed silent. That night, I lay on the floor using my duffel as a pillow. Couldn't sleep. My body was used to tension, to bracing for someone else's demand. Now there was no one. Just the whir of the fridge and the occasional groan of the old pipes. Around 2 a.m., I dreamed of the house, of Sean sitting on my old couch, yelling at a video game, of Dad snoring in his chair, of Mom humming as she watered her plants I bought, watered, repotted when they started to die. I woke up with a tight chest and tears I didn't see coming. But I also woke up without a to-do list. No rent check to split. No light bulb to replace. No silence from people I loved but who never loved me the same way back. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty about choosing myself. It didn't feel like abandonment. It felt like survival. I didn't go back to the house. Not once. But I started getting updates anyway. It began with a voicemail from Mom. Her tone was sugar-dipped guilt. "Just checking in," she said. "Hope you're well. The water heater's acting up again. Sean says it might be the pilot light. If you could swing by sometime." I didn't call back. A few days later, another message. "I know you're busy, but the electric bill came in higher than usual. Could you take a look at it? You always understand these things better than we do." Still didn't respond. Then came the text from Sean. No greeting, just, "Can you send your half of the rent? Landlord's on our backs." That one made me laugh. Out loud, bitter and sharp. My half? I hadn't slept in that house in weeks. I didn't even have a key anymore. And yet they were still billing me like I was on the payroll. That night, I lay on my mattress on the floor, just bought it used off Craigslist, and stared at the ceiling. The paint was chipped, and there was a weird stain in the corner I chose to ignore. But it was mine. Every inch of it. I thought about all those years I'd sent money home without question. Covered holidays, hospital co-pays, that time the ceiling caved in over the bathroom. I didn't ask for credit. I just hoped, quietly, stupidly, that maybe this time they'd say thank you. Maybe this time I'd finally be more than a walking wallet with a last name. But now, stripped of usefulness, I was nothing to them. No calls to ask how I was eating. No text just to check in. Only maintenance requests and money gripes. And then, as if to twist the knife a little deeper, Mom sent a follow-up voice message. This one colder, clipped. "I just think it's unfair that you're abandoning your responsibilities. This is still your family. Sean's just getting on his feet. We thought you'd understand." What they meant was, we thought you'd keep being quiet and useful. It hit me then. I'd never really been their son. I'd been their plan B. And plan B just stopped picking up the phone. So I typed out one message. "I no longer live there. I will not be paying rent or doing repairs. Please update the landlord. Any further messages will be ignored." I stared at it for a full minute. Then hit send. No fanfare. No apology. Just the truth. Simple and clean. And in that silence that followed, no ping, no reply, I felt something shift. I wasn't their fallback anymore. I was free. And I wasn't going back. It's strange how grief can feel like relief when you're grieving something that never really existed. I'd spent so many years mourning the version of family I thought I could earn. Like love was a paycheck I just hadn't deposited yet. I thought if I worked hard enough, paid enough, forgave enough, They'd eventually look at me and see someone they were proud of, someone they truly saw. Now that I'd cut the cord, I kept waiting for the pain. But it didn't come the way I expected. Instead, I found myself noticing little things. The peace of eating dinner without tension. The absurd joy of leaving tools exactly where I wanted. The quiet satisfaction of walking into a space and knowing every item, every dent on the wall, every sound. It was all mine. I didn't need permission. I didn't need to explain myself. No one was asking me where the remote was or why the dishwasher was making that noise again. I started sleeping better. Woke up without that heavy feeling like I'd forgotten something. I hadn't realized how much energy I spent bracing for the next guilt trip. The next reminder that I was only as good as what I gave. But it wasn't all clean breaks and epiphanies. Sometimes I'd catch myself mid-thought, wondering if Sean ever got that job Mom kept saying he'd figure out eventually, or whether Dad's knee ever got better after that surgery. Then I'd feel that old reflex, the urge to check in, fix something, offer help even if they never asked for it nicely. And I'd stop myself, because I'd done that dance, over and over. Gave them everything, and in return, got a cold couch, a silent photo frame, and a list of chores. I wasn't a son, I was a service. One night, maybe 2 weeks after I left, I saw a missed call from Dad. No voicemail, just the number. It was the first time he'd tried to reach me directly in years. Usually everything came through Mom. She filtered, interpreted, translated whatever he needed to say into passive-aggressive bullet points. For a second, I almost called back. Habit, hope, stupidity. But then I remembered that birthday card he never opened. Still sealed, like my place in that house. I stared at the screen until it dimmed. Then I powered the phone off. I sat there in the middle of my quiet apartment, surrounded by boxes I hadn't unpacked yet, letting the silence say what they never could. You're not the broken one for leaving. You were just the only one brave enough to stop pretending everything was fine. And I did, finally. The job was steady. Nothing glamorous, just small-time maintenance work. I fix things for other people now. Leaky pipes, faulty outlets, doors that wouldn't close right. The same things I used to handle without thanks in my parents' house, but here in other people's homes, I got paid. Got thanked, sometimes even tipped. Strangers appreciated me more in one visit than my family had in 30 years. There was something healing in it. Walking into a mess, solving the problem, and walking out. Clean. No guilt. No sideways comments about doing your part. Just, thanks man, that was a lifesaver. That was it. I started keeping a notebook in my glove box. Spiral bound, $5 at the gas station. Every time I felt that old urge to check in, to cave, to drive by the house just to see, I'd pull it out. Sometimes I'd write full pages. Sometimes just a sentence. You already gave them your 20s. You're not selfish for wanting peace. You were their insurance policy, not their son. They only miss what you did for them, not who you are. Writing it down kept the guilt at bay. It gave me something to hold when the doubt crept in. Because some nights it did, especially when the world got quiet. There were moments I still wondered what they'd say if I walked through that door again. If Dad would nod like nothing ever happened. If Mom would hand me a list before asking how I've been. If Sean would even look up from his phone. Then one afternoon, while I was clearing out junk mail in my inbox, I saw it. An email from Mom. Subject, can we talk? No greeting, no, hi honey. Just those 3 words. I stared at it for a while. Didn't open it. She'd never emailed me before. Everything was always texts or voicemails layered with obligation. The last message I got from her was 6 weeks ago. A photo of the electric bill with a short note. Please handle this. And now? Can we talk? I didn't need to read the body. I already knew the format. It would start soft. I just want to understand. Then twist the knife. Sean's having a hard time. And land somewhere between nostalgia and emotional blackmail. I'd read that script my whole life. I didn't need to see it again. I didn't delete it. But I didn't open it either. Instead, I pulled out my notebook and wrote, if they wanted a relationship, they could have started when you were fixing the roof in the rain. Not now, when their hands are empty and yours are finally full. I closed the book, drove to my next job, and the pressure in my chest loosened, just a bit. I wasn't angry anymore, not even bitter, just done. Done giving more than I ever got, done apologizing for boundaries, done confusing service for love. I wasn't going back to being their lifeline. I was building my own. One job, one page, one quiet morning at a time. Fall crept in slow that year, the kind of quiet chill that sneaks up on you. One morning the air's warmer than your coffee. The next it bites through your hoodie. The leaves outside my apartment window were turning that deep orange, the kind that always reminded me of back-to-school season. I used to dread this time of year. Not because of the weather, but because it meant the holidays were coming. And with them, the polite expectation that I'd show up, smile, eat whatever was served, pretend I wasn't sleeping on a couch while Sean got the good room, pretend I wasn't footing half the cost of the meal I was never thanked for. But this year was different. This year I had a place to retreat to. No assigned seat at a table I helped pay for. No small talk laced with subtle judgment. A guy I worked with, Brian, invited me over for a cookout. Friendsgiving, he called it. His wife made way too much food. His kids ran wild through the yard. And the only question anyone asked me was whether I wanted another beer. I did. I wanted 2. Somewhere between the mashed potatoes and the second round of pie, it hit me. I wasn't waiting for anyone's approval. No one there saw me as broken, or lacking, Or the guy who owes his family for the audacity of growing up. They just saw me. And for once, I didn't feel like I had to earn my seat. I helped Brian clean up after. We stood out back, tossing beer bottles into a bin, watching steam rise from the grill. He talked about his oldest starting soccer soon. I listened, nodded, even laughed. It felt normal. And that scared me a little. How good normal could feel when you hadn't had it in years. That night, I got back to my apartment full and a little buzzed, and there it was again. Another email, this time from Sean. Subject: need a favor. I didn't open it right away. I already knew. Probably money. Probably something he could have handled himself 5 years ago if anyone had ever made him try. But curiosity got me. Inside, it was a short message. Too short. Hey, I know you're mad, but Mom and Dad are talking about selling the house. I don't know what to do. Can you call me? No please. No explanation. No acknowledgement of what had gone down. Just, can you fix this too? And for a flicker of a second, the old instinct fired up. Maybe I should help. Maybe this is different. Maybe, just maybe, this was Sean reaching out like a real brother. Maybe it was a chance to talk, clear the air, something. But then I remembered something Brian said that afternoon, standing by the grill, beer in hand, laughing at a joke I can't even recall now. You know the best thing I ever learned? He said. You don't owe anybody access to your peace. That line hit me like a hammer to glass. I closed the email, didn't reply, didn't even mark it as unread. Just let it sit there, silent, untouched, like the version of me they still expected to show up with tools and a blank check, because I was finally at peace. And I was going to protect it, even from the people who taught me to ignore it. I thought ignoring that email would be the end of it. It wasn't. A week later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. It was Mom. Her voice had that performative softness she used when she wanted something but didn't want to sound like she did. Hi, sweetheart. I heard you got Sean's email. I think we should all sit down and talk. It's been long enough, don't you think? We're still family. Still family. Funny how that line always surfaced when they wanted something. Not when I was patching holes in their drywall at midnight after work. Not when I skipped meals so they could have groceries. Not when I gave up moving out at 20 because Sean needed more space to study. The next message came 2 days later. This time her tone was different. Sharper. More clipped. I don't know what kind of grudge you're holding, but punishing your family helps no one. We're going through a lot. The least you could do is show some compassion. It was almost comical. One message asking for grace, the next demanding obedience. Like compassion was something I owed them, regardless of how they treated me. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because here's the thing. Compassion isn't a currency you owe to people who only remember your number when the pipes burst. And forgiveness doesn't mean signing up for the same cycle that broke you in the first place. Still, the guilt clawed at me. Years of conditioning don't vanish overnight. I started second-guessing myself, wondering if maybe I was too harsh, wondering if refusing to help made me cold. Selfish even. Selfish. I imagined their kitchen table, the one I installed, the cabinets I repainted, the worn floor tiles I'd patched when Dad insisted we couldn't afford new ones. That house had my fingerprints all over it. My labor, my time, my history, but not my future. Late one night, I drove by the old place. I didn't park, just slowed down as I passed. The porch light was on. The door looked like it hadn't been painted since I left. The curtains were the same, Mom's favorite dusty rose. I imagined Sean in my old room, feet kicked up on the furniture I assembled, not even realizing whose hands built his comfort. I felt a strange sadness looking at it. Not nostalgia, more like watching a stage set from a play I was done acting in. That night, I pulled out my notebook, the one with all the things I wrote to stop myself from backsliding, and I added one last entry. You gave them your youth, your labor, your silence. You do not owe them your peace, your home, or your healing. They chose comfort over connection. You choose yourself. Then I closed it. And for the first time, not just in theory, not just as an idea, I let the house go. Not because it stopped mattering, but because I finally mattered more. Winter came in heavy that year. Thick skies, early darkness, air sharp enough to sting your lungs. The kind of cold that crept into your bones if you stood still too long. But inside my apartment, it was warm. Not just from the heat, though I kept it running more than I probably should have, but from the quiet I'd built for myself. The calm, the safety. One morning a letter arrived, an actual letter, an handwritten return address. No stamp, meaning it had been slipped into my mailbox directly. I stood there, staring at it like it might explode. The handwriting was Dad's, slanted, mechanical, all caps like he was filling out a form. I didn't open it right away, left it on the counter for a full day. Passed by it every time I made coffee or warmed up leftovers. It sat there like a dare. That night I finally opened it. It wasn't long, a single page, no greeting. Sean's not doing great. He's been staying out drinking a lot. Your mother's upset. I'm tired. Selling the house is on the table now. I know we've had our differences, but I figured you'd want to know. Do what you want with this. No signature, no apology, just a report, like I was a foreman who'd walked off a job site. I reread it 3 times. There was no guilt trip, no manipulation, just exhaustion. It was the first time I saw even a flicker of acknowledgement in anything my father had sent me. Not quite remorse, but where. And for a brief second I saw it from a new angle. How maybe he had been the invisible one in that house too. Not excusing him, but recognizing the cracks. I didn't write back. I didn't call. But I didn't throw the letter out either. I tucked it in the back of the notebook, behind the pages I'd filled with reasons to stay away. It didn't change my decision, but it reminded me that I wasn't the only one drowning in silence back then. We all just learned to pretend it wasn't raining, and I was the first to get out of the storm. The new year came quiet and without fanfare. No resolutions, no champagne, just a calm morning, a hot mug of coffee, and the realization that I hadn't heard from my family in over a month. No guilt, no "can you help with," no unexpected voicemails, just silence, the real kind this time, and peace that didn't feel like rebellion anymore. It just felt like life. By now I had real furniture, a couch I picked, a bookshelf I built with my own hands, not because someone asked me to, but because I wanted it. A plant that hadn't died, a rug I found on sale, little things, normal things. But to me, they felt sacred. Proof that I could create a life, one not centered on anyone else's approval, needs, or emergencies. I got a card from Brian and his wife. Nothing big. Just Happy New Year, hope you stop by again soon. No hidden message, no guilt. Just a simple gesture of inclusion. The kind of small kindness I used to mistake for weakness because I'd been raised to believe you had to earn warmth. That being welcomed without condition was a fantasy. Turns out, it wasn't. I sat on my balcony that night, wrapped in a blanket, watching the city hum quietly below. It was cold enough to numb my fingers, but I stayed there for a long time. Not waiting for a call, not hoping for someone to finally say what they should have said years ago, not writing scripts in my head for arguments that would never happen. I wasn't bitter, not anymore. I didn't need closure, I needed distance. I gave it to myself. Behind me, inside my apartment, my new life was slowly unfolding. One shelf, one page, one quiet morning at a time. I opened a new notebook. Clean cover, no dents, no emotional bandages tucked inside. First page blank, no list of warnings, no defensive mantras scribbled out in anger or exhaustion. Just one line, written carefully in the center. This year belongs to you. And for the first time in my life, that felt true. Not because someone gave it to me, but because I finally stopped giving it away.